All right, let's talk about common style problems. The first style problem we'll look at, remember, style problems are not grammatical problems, they're problems in style. And what we're trying to do here is look at sentences that are grammatically correct but are still poor writing because they're simply overwritten and have certain stylistic problems. And the first one is nominalization. Nominalization means that you're making verbs into nouns. You're taking a good old plain active verb and you're turning it into a noun. So when you nominalize something, you say things like, it is our contention that the defendant is guilty. There's the nominalized verb right there, contention. Instead, it's just easier to say, we contend the defendant is guilty. Get right to the subject of the sentence and write to a simple, direct, active verb. Nominalizations generally occur with noun-making suffixes. This is how you make a verb into a noun. So instead of just saying we continued, you say there was a continuance of. Instead of saying we sterilized the instruments, you say we engaged in the sterilization of the instruments. See how nominalization makes things sound stuffy and pretentious and just uses more unnecessary words? That's why we want to avoid them. So if we look at these sentences, it's fairly easy to eliminate nominalizations. So take a look at this first sentence here. There was an occurrence of a burglary at the residence of Mr. Zymox. You could easily just say a burglary occurred at the residence of Mr. Zymox, or even better, residence is kind of a nominalized way of saying house. So just say Mr. Zymox's house was burglarized, or someone committed burglary at Mr. Zymox's house. There's all sorts of ways you could do it. And let's take a look at this one. It was the committee's intention that the students would engage in the evaluation of their lives. There's a nominalized verb. There's a nominalized verb. Just say the committee intended the students would evaluate their own lives. And you can see that here. This is how we would rewrite them to eliminate the nominalizations. Now, lack of precision is another stylistic problem. Remember that is as a verb is not your friend. Okay? Is has a very precise meaning. It means equals, right? 2 plus 2 is 4. So you want to avoid phrases like the reason is because. Avoid saying the reason is because, or when defining something, avoid saying the something is when. Why? Well, look. Reason is a noun, because is a subordinating conjunction. A noun does not equal a subordinating conjunction. In this case, a pronoun does not equal a subordinating conjunction when. That's why they're called lack of precision. So take a look at this sentence here. The reason we lost the game is because the other team was better. That's generally poor writing. We say that colloquially all the time, but it's generally poor writing. It's better to say it this way. We lost the game because the other team was better. Or if you get stuck in a sentence where you're beginning with the reason, or you want to emphasize the reason, the proper construction is the reason is that. Okay? That is a pronoun, right? It's a relative pronoun, we know. And a noun can equal a pronoun, right? A pronoun can stand for a noun. So it should be the reason is that. Avoid using double negatives, okay? Right? We all know that when you have more than one negative in a sentence, it equals a positive, correct? So avoid constructions like this. My client never said he did not say no. We have no idea what that means because of the influx of all the negative constructions here. Never, not, no. Okay? Try to have only one negative construction in a sentence. That is, only one not, only one never, only one didn't. Okay. Let's talk about some commonly confused words. Okay. There are many commonly confused words, all right? But let's talk about a few so that you should avoid and not make these mistakes anymore. Remember that every day can be one or two words. When you mean each day, okay, it's two words. When you mean an adjective meaning ordinary, it is one word. So he wore an everyday green shirt to school, that would be one word. Or every day he went to school, that would be two words. Presently is not a fancy way of saying now. So avoid saying things like, I am not presently in my office, okay? Say currently or I'm not now. Presently actually means in a little while or in the near future. So the correct use of presently would be presently the train will arrive, okay, something like that. Avoid hopefully as an all-purpose sentence modifier. Hopefully means as an adverb meaning with hope. So the correct way to use hopefully would be something like he looked hopefully at the cake, desperately wanting a piece. Okay. Avoid constantly saying things like hopefully I will graduate on time or hopefully I will, be the candidate you want. Avoid that in formal writing. Insure, assure, and insure with an E. Insure with an I means to protect against financial loss. So I want to insure my car for $5,000. Assure means to promise. I assure you that we will complete the contract. Promise. It's synonymous with promise. And insure with an E means to make certain. So to ensure no one would come in the room, we bolted the door. Okay? And then affect versus effect. Affect versus effect. Affect with an A is the verb. The music affected him greatly, causing him to cry. Effect is the noun. The effects of the music caused him to cry. A lot of people use comprised as a fancy way of saying composed of. That is always wrong. And if you ever have a sentence where you say comprised of, you are wrong. Okay? Comprised is a verb meaning includes. Okay? So the correct use of comprises or comprised is when some larger thing encompasses some smaller things. So the campus comprises, and remember, if you're using it correctly, you can always replace it with includes. The campus comprises 3 buildings. That's the proper use of comprised. Don't use it as a fancy way of saying composed. Let's talk about a couple of really problematic words that pretentious people tend to rely on, and these words are totally useless, and you should generally avoid them. The first one is utilize. Here's a very famous definition of the word utilize by the writer David Foster Wallace, and you can see what he says about utilize. You can read it yourself. So avoid utilize, just say use. And then the mother of all pretentious, overused, bureaucratic, jargony words is impact. Okay? You may have heard erroneous advice that says if you don't know the difference between affect and effect, just use impact. Don't do that because people hear you using impact as an all-purpose verb and they think that you don't have it quite together and don't know the difference between affect and effect. People who are smart and care about writing generally avoid the word impact. Okay? Impact should really be used only in the cases of impacted wisdom teeth or impacted colons or in car crashes, right? There was a collision. The impact of the blue car against the red car destroyed the blue car's engine. That's when you want to use impact. Do not use it as an all-purpose word when you could easily use influence or affect or effect. You can see it's often misused and overused. Here's an example from the law school's materials here. So I will settle for nothing less than impacting the world. It just sounds terrible and is meaningless. Okay. You can see, like here, let's look at this. It's very easy to avoid the impact trap. Take a look at these. He gave a particularly impactful speech that positively impacted my decision to attend law school. You could easily say he gave a particularly effective speech that influenced my decision to attend law school. How about this one? The impacts of the president's decision began impacting the growth of the economy in a negative way. You could just say the effects of the president's decision caused the economy to shrink or something like that. And 3, he impactfully delivered a speech about the impacts of crime. You could just say he effectively delivered a speech about the influence of crime in the neighborhood. Don't be the kind of person who uses impact all the time. Nothing wrong with using it occasionally and correctly, okay, but avoid it as an all-purpose verb. The other thing you need to realize is to avoid what are called wordy connectives. Wordy connectives occur when you're using 3, 4, 5-word phrases when you could easily use one word. So common wordy connectives are in today's society, that just means today, at the present time, just means now, in the event of means if, in spite of the fact that equals despite, at that point in time just means then, for the purpose of just means to, etc., etc. Okay? So as we can see here, take a look at this sentence. At the present time, we have no plan in the event of a hurricane occurring. Just say, we just say, now we have no plan if a hurricane occurs. How about this one? In today's society, we need to practice clear English in order to communicate effectively, despite the fact that there are real challenges to our language. We just say, today, we need to speak clearly to communicate effectively, despite the many challenges to our language. And that will conclude our discussion of problems in style. Thanks.